In this tutorial for the online map and search tools for New York Noir, I'm going to show you some features designed to help you playtest cases and report issues to authors. So you've already seen the overview and advanced tutorials. Now I'm just going to show you a couple extra features here. So let's say I was playing a case. I've got my printed materials in front of me, maybe a printed copy of the case. That would probably be the normal way you would use this, and you just run your searches. But if you're playtesting a brand new case in beta, the tools offer some features to make it easier for you to playtest and then easier for you to report issues to the author. And the way you do that is with this integrated PDF reader. I can click this button to bring it up here, or I could toggle it from here. So I'm going to bring it up here, and you can see now I have two tabs. There's the map and there's the PDF reader. Now I'm going to click this load case PDF, and it's asking me to either provide a URL to a case on the web, or I can load in a PDF that I've downloaded. I'm going to go and get a URL from the New York Noir website, which I'm on, but I'm going to go to a different, in fact, let me cancel this. Let me just go to the games tab here. You can't really see that since the tabs aren't visible, but you can see here is the games tab of New York Noir with a bunch of games that authors have written. I'm going to click on the demo game that I wrote, and I am going to look at the published files. Now there's one PDF that's double column made for printing to save space, but for playtesting on its screen, this solo for screen is better because it's got one page per lead and nothing else. So I'm just going to right click on here and say copy link address. Then I'm going to switch back to my map tool. I'm going to say load the case, and I'm just going to paste in the URL, which is here. It's just a URL to the PDF. And I'm going to say load. Okay, so it's loaded in the case. The Past is a Crooked Game. And it's a little tight on this screen, but I could page down through this. This is the exact case you would get if you wanted to play it on a tablet or whatever. It's zoomed in to fit the screen, but I could zoom it for width. Here are the introductions and then the leads that you would normally look up and visit, and then the questions and hints and everything. So we might just page through this. There's some instructions. There's the printed sheets. These you would still want to print out and record. Here's our little introduction prelude, and at some point here where we would start our case. I'm not going to read any of this, but I'm also not going to worry too much about spoilers. But here is so this is the PDF of the case that you could play. It'd be a little easier if you had a bigger screen, not my small screen for recording tutorials. But okay, so let's imagine I've loaded this in and I start playing it and I read the story. And let's see if we could, let's zoom in a little bit here and read a little bit of the story. This is the intro tutorial, so I'm not going to worry about spoiling stuff. But basically, we've got a case that gets laid out to us here, and a little bit of a tutorial about how to play. But we get told that there was a robbery across the street of a bakery. We get told there's a document about the robbery. Here's the document. Here's a person, Jacob Thompson. He was a taxi cab driver. Witnesses saw him running from the Tellerico bakery. So I'm actually going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to the map. And I'm going to go into the white pages. I'm going to search for the Tellerico Bakery. It's actually called Tellerico and Brother Bake Shop. So I've searched for this. We could click on it, jump to it in the map. There's the Tellerico and Brother Bake Shop. Maybe I want to bookmark this because that was the scene of a potential robbery. So I want to show you a couple things. First of all, if we click on this log tab, we can see what's happened. It's keeping a log of everything I've done. I clicked in the PDF on document 1. I ran a search, a white pages search for Tellerico, and then I clicked on the Tellerico and Brother Bake Shop, and here's where it is. Furthermore, if we go back to this, and here is the place we went, I want you to notice this button here. If I click this button, it's actually going to look up that lead in the case. And now I'm reading that lead. If you're playing this on paper, normally you would go to the table of contents, you'd look up this lead number, and then you'd turn to that page or click to visit that page. But here is the lead which I could now read. And in my history, it's shown the places I went, but in the log, it's even made a note that I've read this lead. And then I could make a note here for myself. Guy says he didn't have a knife, which is weird since the police report said he did. So I can make my notes here in this log as well. I can even search for items in this log. If you were visiting a place through the book, you could click here. For example, right now I know where it is on the white pages, but if I click here, it will actually jump to it. So maybe I didn't know where Tellerico was, and I was going somewhere else, but I was reading this. I could click this to jump straight to that location. The log is going to keep track of all of this. It shows that I clicked on a couple blocks, and then I went back and clicked on locating this bake shop. Now, maybe I want to follow up the idea that he was a taxi driver. So I go to the yellow pages, I look up taxi cabs. Maybe I have reason to believe that he got in a taxi cab on the Lower West Side, Empire State Carriage Hire. Okay, here it is. Now I'm going to click to read that entry. I click here and it says it's not in the case. Now that's fine. That's a common thing that would happen while you're playing a case. But in terms of playtesting, what's really useful is if we go in the log, it's made a note that we tried to visit the Empire State Carriage Hire. We tried to look that up in the case, and there was no entry for it. So this log, in addition to keeping track of my notes as I'm playing it, it keeps track of all the entries I tried to read and didn't find anything. Maybe I would make a note here for myself, like, I really think you should write an entry for this place, since it was strongly suggested he worked in the Lower West Side neighborhood. Or maybe back here at Tellerico, maybe I want to write another note, and I said, P.S. there is a typo about the knife. In fact, we could go back to Tellerico in the history. We could go read it again, and we could actually select a paragraph here. I could say, okay, I could select this text and right click and say copy selected text to play log with location. So I'm going to click this one. Now I'm going to go to the log. You'll see it's added this text that I selected, and then I can make a note, and I could say, kind of weird how he is speaking. Maybe that's my feedback to the author that he could work on this a little bit. And then after I finish my case, and it's keeping track, it's doing timestamps here every couple minutes. So I started this game at 12:26 p.m. Sunday, February 15th, and here it is 5 minutes later. I'm up to here. So you could play this over the case of a week, and you'd get these little timestamps every once in a while, along with what you did in your notes. And then you could go here and you could say, copy the entire log to the clipboard to send to the author, or maybe just a summary of what I did and my comments. So I could copy it to the clipboard and then send it to the author as my feedback from playing the case. Don't have to play it all in one session. It's all kept and recorded. Again, this is all in your local browser, so there's no privacy issue. It's not shared on the website. It's not automatically shared with the author. And in fact, you could delete stuff if you wanted to from this log. It's just kept locally until you want to share it with the author of the case. But hopefully you can see how this tool, keeping track of not just everything you do and when, but all the leads you tried to read and there weren't entries for. That's a common thing that an author will want to know and address. Plus your actual notes as feedback, and then a very easy way to share this with the author. Hopefully you can see why this would make a useful way to give feedback to authors on their cases as they're developing them. It's one of the big things that we're trying to make it easier for authors to get good feedback. Let's hope that that's something that's useful to you as an author or as a playtester.